The human spirit is unconquerable. We are individuals and we are sovereign, born with unlimited potential, gifted from our Creator. Our mission is to break free from the systems that bind us.
I volunteer as tribute.
We strive for peace and prosperity and overcome all challenges, roadblocks, and obstacles. We are empowered because we think for ourselves and we act for ourselves. We are self-reliant and independent, but guided by the wisdom of those who share our values.
What possible difference can I make?
There is no government, no ruler, nor ideas that are able to stop us. We are driven to succeed because we seek political freedom, financial freedom, and spiritual freedom.
It's all for nothing if you don't have freedom.
This is Mike Corbell, and you are listening to The Invictus Mind. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Invictus Mind podcast. This is your host, Mike Corbell. I'm happy to be here and happy for all the guests. If you are returning to this show, I thank you. But if you are here for the first time, then you have reached the #1 program dedicated to discovering liberty. On this program, we discuss how to achieve political freedom, financial freedom, and spiritual freedom. However, it is my belief that the best way to make ourselves free is to constantly be working on ourselves. When we realize that true liberty is a force like gravity that can be harnessed, amplified, and magnified, we discover that this power is everywhere for us to use, and then we can become unconquerable, or as I like to say, invictus. If you like this show, please subscribe to any of your favorite players, leave a review on Apple or wherever you listen to podcasts, and please share this program with 3 of your friends, for that is truly the only way that this message can get out to everyone who needs to hear it. All right, on the show with me today is a gentleman I met a couple years ago while I was attending a Toastmasters meeting. Toastmasters, of course, is a terrific international organization that helps people develop the skills needed for public speaking, presenting their ideas in public, as well as leadership and organizational training. My guest today is a man with high energy. He's very charismatic and warm. He's got a great sense of humor. While in Toastmasters, he has won numerous speech awards, including 3 times the Speaker of the Year for the Chicago Toastmasters Humorous Speech Competition. In 2014, after winning in Illinois, he competed in the Toastmasters World Speech Competition in Kuala Lumpur. Approximately 25,000 contestants entered this contest, and he actually finished 4th in the semifinals, making him the 28th speaker in the world. My guest today has been a professional salesman for 33 years. He's got an impeccable record. He started in a direct sales company selling cookware, where within 2 years, he became the #1 sales manager nationwide. Other awards include the #1 recruiter, #1 sales trainer, and a #1 sales director, and finally, the territory director. In 1995, he won his cherished Sales Hall of Fame Award. I'd like to welcome to the show, Rudy Segovia. How you doing, Rudy?
Hi, Mike. I'm doing great. Thank you.
I appreciate you coming on the program today. You know, a lot of times I talk about, liberty and political stuff, but this is a show that's dedicated to self-improvement. This is a show that's dedicated to helping ourselves create liberty in our own lives. And I think that you have been an exemplar of somebody who has not only achieved success, but because of the success, you have financial independence. And you are actually a good coach and trainer, which I think is very valuable to many other people.
Yes, thank you very much.
You know, I want to start out because I love how your profile looks on social media. You say that my awards tell my story.
Yes, 33 years in sales, yes.
You know, your picture has, I don't know, there's probably about 15 or 20, maybe more trophies in the background in your picture. I think most people might be a little intimidated by that. But for a person like myself who has been in a sales environment, you know, that just spells out success and winning. And I'd like to talk a little bit about your story along the way and how you actually became successful in your career.
Yes, that would be wonderful. But let me just say this. People might get intimidated by seeing all those trophies. But let me just tell you that when I started in sales, I would say, the starting point, my hands used to shake when I did a presentation. I was so nervous. But like you said, self-improvement was the key for me. I started taking classes and trainings, and that's what helped me along the way. So There's no real secret to it except be a professional and learn as much as you can.
Well, I always am reminded of some of the great stories you share with Toastmasters, but maybe we can start with just telling your story. I understand that you were born in Laredo, Texas. Your parents were immigrants who ended up moving to Arizona when you were young, correct?
Actually, yes, I was born in Laredo, Texas. My parents were migrant farm workers.
Okay.
So even though we were born in Texas, we were very poor. Just because you're born in the United States doesn't guarantee success. You have to work. So what happened every year, we used to go to Arizona to pick cotton. We would go into Idaho for the potato fields. We go into North Dakota for the sugar beets, and then back to Texas. So every year we were in 4 different states, and then we end up back in Texas in the wintertime to finish the year.
Okay.
That was our lives. And so school for me was very difficult because I used to go to 2 or 3 different schools during the school year. I was always behind, other students because I couldn't catch up to whatever they were. And so what happened is I didn't like school, and I just barely made it through high school. And the only reason that I stuck around to finish high school is because when I was a junior, I told my dad, I'm going to quit school. I had straight D's. Now I think I had 1 C, but I told my dad, I'm going to quit school. I don't enjoy it. And he said, fine. He agreed with me. He says, fine, tomorrow I'll find a job for you at the factory. Now, I never thought about working in a factory or getting up at 4 a.m. And I think that was my first sales job, my first rather. I told my dad, you know what, Dad? I only got one more year to go. Let me just finish the school. And he goes, no, you have a good idea. I could use the extra income. And I'm with my dad, but Dad, if I finish, if I graduate, at least I'll be. And so I think I convinced him. And so that's why I graduated, because I didn't want to go to work in a factory. And what happened after I graduated, I did go to work in a factory.
So It was one of those things where you either go into school or you go into a factory. You said that you sold yourself, you sold your dad, but I think really you sold yourself because you didn't want to do the thing.
Yeah. But up to the age of 12 years old, I was working in the fields with my dad.
Okay.
Remember that level of poverty. I remember having nothing, eating once a day, and most of the time was beans with tortillas. You know what? And as a child, I didn't really feel what I was missing. I didn't, because I didn't know what I was missing out in life. So we just survived. That's all that migrant farm workers do, is they don't get rich out of working for less than minimum. They just survive. And so when my dad moved us to Chicago, I was 12 years old. And that's when, again, I stayed in school, in one school for the whole year, and I managed to graduate high school.
Okay. But somehow after high school, you ended up working in the factory, but you must not have lasted there very long. You must have been like, I want to do more in life.
Well, what happened, this is what happened to me. I was what they call a stock boy. I don't know what the politically correct title is today, but back then it was a stock boy. In assembly line of 30 women. And I used to supply the parts that they needed to assemble, the products. So my mom used to sell custom jewelry. She would buy these rings, that were $8, and she would sell them for $16. So she made $8 on a ring. And one day she said to me, Rudy, why don't you take this box of rings and see if the women in your factory would like them? So what happened? I took these rings, I opened up the box, I showed it, and they took the box from my hand, and it went around, all the women, their box came back to me and it was empty. And I had money and I have an empty box.
Oh no.
At lunchtime, they started to pay me. I took 2 rings, I took 1 ring, and here's the lesson. My mom made $400 profit by selling those rings. I used to make $400 a month working 40-hour weeks. And for a month, I made $400. And that's when it hit me. Wait, sales is my way out of poverty. Mm-hmm. Sales is going to help me get ahead. But then I thought, it pays so much money that it has to be a lot of college, a lot of trainings. I didn't know what sales, what it took to get into a sales company. And so I stayed where I was in this factory. And then somebody gave me a tape. It used to be a cassette tape back then of Zig Ziglar.
Oh yeah, I remember Zig Ziglar.
And all I remember is something that affected me, a quote. And he said, You are what you are. You are where you are because of what has gone into your mind. You can change what you are. You can change where you are by changing what goes into your mind. And at that time, I was thinking like a poor migrant farm worker. I was thinking, well, I have a job. I'm going to be here, for the rest of my life if they don't fire me. And so I was happy there, but I started, well, what if I try for something else? So I started to apply for different jobs and then I would get them. And so I can better myself just by taking a risk, but just by learning more. And that was the start of things for me. And then I interviewed for a sales job. And that's another story, which is quite hilarious, but that's how I got into sales. I answered a newspaper ad, a blind ad. And so I went in and this man is trying to sugarcoat. He goes, we're in marketing, we're in direct marketing with, and I said, is this sales? Well, yeah, it is sales, but we train you. I go, great, I'll take it. He goes, no, Rudy, wait, hang on. This is a commission only sale. I go, I know, I'll take it. If you're going to train me, I'll do it. He goes, well, see, you don't understand. We don't give you leads. You have to go out and find your own leads. I go, I'll take it. And he looks at me like he's trying to say, wait, this kid is not understanding, and I really don't want somebody who doesn't understand something so simple, but I wanted to get into sales if he trained me. And very shortly, I was in 2 months, I was a field trainer. I went up to management and then I was the #1 manager nationwide. So because I wanted to improve myself. See, there's a saying out there that says, if I can do it, you can do it, but it's missing something. And that is if you want to do it. Yeah, you can do it, but do you want to? And that's what I wanted to. I needed to get out of poverty. I needed things. And that's what's my start in sales.
That's awesome. Your story will resonate with a lot of sales professionals that I might talk to. However, sales is one of those things that if you're really good at it, you can make a lot of money. If you're not good at it, you're going to be poor. You're going to be a poor salesman. But more than that, I think that you talked a little bit about your mindset, which we're going to get into in a minute. But what's interesting is that I believe that anybody can sell because sales is one of those things you can learn. But just knowing who you are, Rudy, and just this few minutes we've been on the show here, you have a certain type of charisma, a personality, a certain type of energy that I think is almost attracted to a sales career. I don't think everybody would have that same outgoing personality, would just jump into an environment where, I'm just going to go talk to people. You learn quickly that you can make more money in sales in one day than at the factory. But what would you say about that factory person who's just doesn't have that attitude to get into sales like that and make that change?
Well, the attitude is not to get into sales. The attitude is to better themselves.
Okay.
So it could be a training to become a carpenter. It could be a training to become an electrician, a truck driver, but you got to want something more than what you have. If you're happy with what you're at, well, then stay there, because people can push you to other things. They can recruit you, hey, Mike, come over here. There's a lot of money in this business and you can go and see it, but you're not going to want to do it and you're not going to do well. So the thing is, it starts with you wanting to do something better. Now, as far as being a good salesman, it takes training. The first thing is you have to be excited about the product that you sell. If you love your product, and by the way, you must buy the product that you're selling, whatever it is. Selling airplanes, of course, that's not feasible. But me, I had a set of cookware. I sold cookware door to door. So I used to sell cookware. And so we had the product at home and we knew how the product worked. My wife loved it. So when I went into sales, I could relate that story to people. Okay? But second is the training, because the number one killer of salespeople is objections. Mm-hmm. And and a lot of salespeople take it personally, like they're saying no to me because I'm, whatever. They're saying no to your product and to your presentation. So you have to get better at it. So whatever my manager told me, whatever your objection is, whatever you get most of the time, whether it's a price objection, then put that into your presentation and cover it before it comes up, and it works. But second, there's a formula, there's a system for answering objections. Most people answer an objection in a kind of arguing with the customer. Well, see, Mike, what you don't see here is that we have this and that we have that. And That's not the way to answer an objection. There's a way to do it. Now, I got to tell you a quick story here.
Okay.
When I was selling cookware, now our product was cookware, fine china, crystal cutlery, and our prospects were single working women that live at home with their parents. Okay, they had to live at home, and then the second rule, the mother had to be there. If the mother wasn't there, we didn't do the presentation. So we show the young lady something for her future, because we were showing her something she didn't need. She's not cook. She probably didn't even know how to cook. So we would say, Mary, what I'm going to show you today is something that you don't need. You may be thinking, why is he showing me this? But one day you're going to move out or you're going to get married. So you're going to have the fine and da-da-da-da-da. And so we would overcome that objection of I don't need it right away. So one day I'm doing this presentation. The mom and the young lady loves the product. The father comes in and he's drunk.
Oh, no.
In the door. So I stand up, I put my hand out, and he didn't shake my hand. He walked around me. Says, nobody's buying any of this garbage. He goes, and this son of a blank, 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 I want him out of my house. He walks into the kitchen. The mother turned red. Now, I'm standing there like stunned, right? And then I could have argued with him, because my mother's a nice lady. What he said wasn't nice. But I'm thinking, okay, the system they showed me. So I went and used the 5-step to answer the objection, and I got the sale. And when I came out of there, I felt like 7 feet tall. I'm only 5'3", but I felt 7 feet tall. And I knew at that moment, that was my moment that I knew I was going to stay in sales. And that is when you have something good for them, it's something good for you also, and for your company. It's a win-win all around. And the attitude of what you sell is what's important here, that you believe in it, that you're in it.
Yeah, I think that is the most important thing. I spent some of my career in sales too, and it definitely is a belief, a mindset thing. If you don't believe in your product, if you don't believe that it'll benefit somebody, if you don't believe in yourself more than anything else, then you're going to have the lonely road of desperation in that type of career.
Right.
I really want to focus on the mindset, because there's so many people out there who are living just desperate life. Here in 2021, I talk a lot about politics on this show, and some of my audience will sit there and complain about who the president is or who the governor is and what they're doing with the lockdowns and the mandates. And my philosophy has always been, okay, well, we can't fix what's going on in the outside of us. We can't fix what's going on in the political world, but we can fix our own mindset. We can fix the things. We can learn how to adapt. We can learn how to better ourselves. And I really think that's the crux of what makes people successful.
Right. Well, as I used to tell my people, my group, my sales group, was if you were broke and your family was hungry, would you go out and wash cars just to make some money and feed your kids? Oh yeah. Would you go out and watch, clean toilets? Oh yeah. Well, then that's what you're willing to do to survive. What are you willing to do to succeed? Mm-hmm. Will you do trainings? Will you go to classes? Will you be on time? Will you? And that's what you have to change your mindset, as to not just survive, but to want to do better in life.
Absolutely. You have to have success mindset. You want to succeed more than you want to even breathe. I've heard some trainers say that you got to look at it like the most important thing in the world is that you need to have success, and you need to be focusing completely on that success, and really take no for an answer. Don't take no for an answer.
Well, and what happened to me is when I was the number one manager nationwide, I had a group, and because I get an override of what they did, I was making a really nice, income. So the opportunity came to me in 1980 for the Chicago Police Department. Okay. And I remember I said to my wife, wow, my sales group runs itself. I go, I'm going to try this for a couple of months, just see what it's like to have a gun and to be chasing bad guys. And she goes, well, whatever. So I went into the police department training. I was sent into one of the worst, we call it busiest. Okay, so the busiest where there's high crime. And I saw the need for good police officers out there. And I saw the pain of people. And in some neighborhoods, people are trapped. in a just a cycle of violence, of poverty. And I think it reminded me of when I was a kid, how bad that was. And also, my dad was the kind of person that always helped people, because he didn't get paid. So I think that's why I got into police work, because it was helping people. And I'm really, really proud of what I did as a police officer. And those 3 months turned into 30 years. So I was an officer for 30 years. And at the same time, I'm a sales director for this other company. So I wasn't personally selling anymore, but I was training, recruiting, and my group actually made more money for me if I had gone out and just worked by myself and made sales. So if you're going to get into sales, get into a company where you can bring others on board and make an override commission, even if it's a little bit, but that little bit would add when you add more people. And so that would be my advice. And by the way, Mike, if I wasn't selling cookware, I would have sold insurance. Ever since day one, when I first got married, I started to insure like everything. My kids, I made those investment plans for them when they were little. And my son, I put $100 a month. And my daughter, because she's younger, $75 a month. I did that for 20 years. And now their accounts are like, they'll have like $1 million by the time they get to 65. So I insured their future, and it cost me just a little bit. It didn't cost me a lot because they were little when I did this. If I try to do this now, it costs a fortune. And so the reason I'm saying this is because I truly believe in that. I truly believe in that investment. So that's probably probably would have sold something like that if I had again. But so getting back to questions, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, you and I have talked offline a few times about my career in the insurance and in financial world, and I think there's a lot of truth to what you're saying. Somebody just to prepare for the long run. But you mentioned your brief 3-month interest in becoming a police officer and turned into 30 years. But I think what really struck me as interesting about that story is that you prepared to make a transition in your career. You set yourself up to have a little sales team, an organization that continued making you money. I think that there's a subtle hint in what you said there that a lot of people could benefit from. My advice is not for everyone to become a police officer, obviously, but my advice would be to prepare yourself for the worst that could happen. You learned a skill, you discovered that you were pretty good at sales. We could talk a little bit about your training and some of the obstacles you had to overcome to be good at that. But you grew to a point where, okay, I developed this skill set. I have something in place, and now I can go explore other things in my life, and I can actually look into other types of career opportunities. Sadly, there's so many people who have 1 or 2 skill sets, and if the worst thing happens, if the economy shifts or if they lose their job, then they got to start from scratch again. Right.
No, it's very true. It's very true.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, I want to hear your story more about law enforcement, but more importantly, how did you get to a position of being able to make that transition? I mean, I'm sure when you started in sales, you had a lot of challenges. You said that you told a story about your successful sale with the little girl and her mom and a drunk guy, but I'm sure you have quite a few stories that just like made you question whether that was really the place you wanted to be.
Again, you have to believe in your product. You have to believe in your product so much that that, of course, you have to know your market too. Not 100% of people will buy your product, and not 100% of the people are your prospects. So when you narrow it down to where are my niche, my niche market, and when you believe in your product, in that home that, they're going to benefit by your product. And when you have that conviction that, hey, I'm not leaving this house until they order this product because they can really use it. This is a person who's going to benefit by it. And when you have that enthusiasm because you love your product, because you know your product, because you can answer the questions and you can help them make a decision. Because even then, people, just like noses, they all have at least one objection. So you have to know how to answer the objections. And you got to be prepared for them. You know what they are. You know what people tell you in your industry. I don't need it. I don't have time. It's too expensive. You know what they are. So when you know how to professionally answer those questions, it'll make sense to them. But most people just need, they're on the fence. Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. And it's your job to carry them over and say, yes, this is going to benefit you as well as me. I'm not saying I'm making money, but you're getting the big benefit. I'll give you an example. The cookware that we sold, the first sale I made $60. I was getting 10% of the total. It was a $600 package. Mm-hmm. And the product has a 50-year warranty. Now, that was 42 years ago or something, 43 years ago, maybe. I spent my $60 back in 1978.
Yep.
That person still has her cookware and she still uses it. It's still under warranty. And so who really benefited from that sale? And I can go back to my kids, with the insurance I bought for them. Yeah, it was a little sacrifice paying that $175 a month, 20 years. But you know what? The time passed. And because it was in my budget, I didn't even feel it anymore. Uh-huh. And now I benefit from that, the salesman made some money, but my kids are going to benefit from that investment. So, and that's how I look at things. And so the police thing, again, I had a group that was selling, and I was only doing that for curiosity. I wasn't thinking of switching because I made more money in the cookware business than I did as a police officer. Since 1980, I'd been over six figures. Mm-hmm. And for Mike, who was a migrant farm worker, barely made it through high school, learned a profession, learned it, because my closing average was 80% of the people that I saw. Mm. And so that's why I did well. I have, later I can show you another time, maybe a whole PowerPoint that I have about my pictures and the things I struggled through when I went. And but that's my story. And it's all about, first starts with you wanting to do something better.
Okay.
So you can do it only if you want to better yourself.
Sure, absolutely. How did your skill set that you acquired as a sales rep and a sales trainer, how did that help you succeed in law enforcement?
It was knowing how to communicate with people, because in sales, the customer is always right until you show them another right, way of thinking. But okay. You always treat people with courtesy, even the people that don't buy. You have to thank them because they gave you their time. They give you an opportunity to practice one more presentation, to learn more about yourself, to learn, a question about your product that you didn't know about. Oh, I don't have the answer to that. Let me check with my manager. But now you know it for the next person. So people, you have to say thank you to them, even if they buy nothing. And so treating customers, having that mindset of, helping people, that carried me over to police work. As a matter of fact, my supervisor would sometimes tell me, Segovia, you're spending too much time at at your job. Just finish the report and get out of there. But it was more than just writing a report. Helping them get, the domestic abuse victims. There's so agencies that will help them. So you give them more information of where to look for help, how to look counseling. I mean, I went a little bit over, and so I always saw it as I'm helping people. In the squad cars, the police squad cars say we serve and protect. So we serve. And how do you serve? Is by helping people get out of situations or try and do something for them. And so that's the mindset I took. I took a salesman mindset into my police work. And for me, it worked.
Yeah, I'm glad you shared that. You shared that story once with Toastmasters. And I think that a lot of my audience will look at police and question the need for police or question some of the actions that police officers take. There's a certain reputation that unfortunately many police officers kind of spread. But you took a different attitude. You really emphasize that serve and protect. So I think that's a good attitude. Maybe you share one prime example about how you really serve somebody in that line of work.
Well, and the one thing I want to say is that not all police officers are good. There is some problems. There is some big problems with some of the people. But I would venture to say that 99% of the officers do their job and they do care. But there's the bad apples that they should be in jail, and some of them are, a lot of them are in jail, and some more should be there. And what needs to change is a culture of awareness. There's a training that's missing from police work. because we are put in areas. I came from poverty. So when I was put in that area, I already know what people felt like.
Yeah.
But the people that have never had a hard time, and they cannot see why somebody is acting that way when they should be acting better, because they don't understand them. So training is important, I think, in police work. I guess the one time that I got into trouble is because it happened where a man shot his wife in front of his children.
Mm.
He runs out the door. We are the first ones on the scene. We see him. I chase him, and I'm right behind him. I'm maybe like 50, 60 back of him, but I can see him, and we're running. He makes a turn into a blind alley, and I think it was God that told me, stop, because I stopped. I just automatically stopped. And I just waited, and then I hear the gunshot. The man committed suicide. So when I go back, they had 3 kids. And my supervisor says, okay, well, we're done here. I go, what about the kids? Well, the 14-year-old is old enough to take care of the other ones, and they'll call a relative. I go, no, wait. They just lost both their parents. He goes, Segovia, that's not our job. Call Children's Services. I go, no, we should call some relatives. So he says, we have to leave. So we left, but I came right back. I took my lunch hour, but half hour. But I went in there and started calling some of the relatives. So I had told my supervisor because we have to report our lunch location. She went to look for me, and I wasn't there. So where are you? So I had to tell her where I was. She came back, and she was yelling at me, took me into the command. I mean, it was a big deal. But for me, I found a sister of the dead mom, the aunt rather, that was rushing over to take care of the kids. So I went further than what I needed to do. And so, but I really got a lot of satisfaction out of helping people, going that extra, inch for them.
Right.
There's a ton of stories, but
yeah. So you took that compassion, that personal touch, that service mindset. Not only did you find success in the sales arena, but you also found it in law enforcement too, and you had a satisfying 30-year career doing that. So that's great. Now you became a Toastmasters speaker.
Yes.
Or after your police work, were you kind of doing that all at the same time? What was the reason for joining that organization?
Well, I've heard about Toastmasters through some ad, and I go, that sounds interesting. And since I was already I was a sales trainer for my own sales group, I thought to myself, I'm thinking of retiring. I'd like to maybe learn more about how I'm presenting to because the biggest group I had was 1,200 people. And that was, in the sales organization that I was in, because we were nationwide. We had big conferences. But I've never done strangers. I've only done people that are in my industry and in my company. I said, I try to better myself. We're talking about betterment. So I said, I'll see what this Toastmasters is about. What are they going to teach me there? I checked into the Earl Nightingale trainings, but they were for a certain amount of time, and then you paid a lot more money, but it was only a certain amount of time. Then you had no follow-up. The Toastmasters was, every year for as many. I've been in it for 14 years, I think, already. So I've been here for a long time. And so my thought was to better myself. And then when I heard about the speech competitions, I said to myself, I'm going to win this world title. And I win the world title. I just haven't gotten there yet. I got to fourth in the semifinals, but it's coming. and so that was it. The thought behind it was to improve my speaking abilities and my gestures and my tones and my vocals, things I needed to improve on. And I'm still improving.
Right. And I think that that mindset of always getting better is great. In my experience with Toastmasters, I like, being able to present. Again, in sales training, I'd be able to speak to a group of people who I knew I wanted to develop the skill set to improve their communication skills to somebody else. When I joined Toastmasters, it was much like you said. It wasn't so much about teaching anybody the product or anything like that, but developing myself into communicating an idea going forward.
Sure.
So why don't you just take a few minutes and tell me just what you really took the most out of Toastmasters? I mean, what are some of the key things that you've actually learned as a part of that organization? Yeah,
I'm still improving, as I mentioned, but it was talking without all the ums and so's and all those filler words. That was one of the most valuable things that I learned. But also my voice, the talking, and I have the tendency to talk fast, and so I need to slow down. I haven't slowed down yet for you here, but when I'm doing a speech, you need to slow down, to pause, let the people laugh, don't talk over them, use the stage, move to this side of the audience, to this side of the audience, to the middle, move with a purpose, not just like a tiger that goes back and forth in a cage, but have a purpose for going to this direction, this direction. There's a lot of points that if you want to be a speaker, a better manager, a better leader, these are good skills that you learn. And that's what I think that's what has impressed me. And I stuck around because of these competitions. I have humorous speech. I won #1, but I want to have the international speech competition. And we're still trying.
Well, ranking number 28 out of 25,000 people in Indonesia is really impressive there.
I was proud of it. I was proud. I didn't feel like I lost. I said, okay, I got that experience under my belt. In that competition, only 3,000 people go to the conventions of Toastmasters.
Okay.
And so you have to talk in front of a large group, which is pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see people from different countries with their outfits and their clothing of their country they're representing. It is really, really nice. And people come up to me and talking, with an accent of their language, but it's still understandable. It is just so cool. I mean, I loved it. I think that's just like police work. I fell in love with it, and now I can't leave it.
So you've made friends from all over the world because of that.
I met some, yes. I've spoken in Australia, in Spain, in Mexico. That's about it. But I visited as a tourist a lot of other countries. But that's it's just fun. Traveling the world is fun.
Yeah, well, I think a person in your position who set yourself up with financial success can really benefit nowadays to be able to travel and do things. So
right. Well, the only advice I have for salespeople that I used to give my salespeople is secure your future. It's not financial freedom; it's financial security. Because financial freedom could also be somebody who owes nobody money, so he's free of financial problems. Even this guy is free of financial problems. So it is securing your future. So I always tell my people, never, ever, never buy a brand new car. Invest your money. I invested in real estate because I was afraid of the stock market. I didn't know it, and I still don't. So I every time I got a nice paycheck, I would buy properties. I would buy things. And that's what got me. I made a financial plan that helped me secure myself. So when I retired, I retired in 2010. And before I started doing my training seminars, I already had a 6-figure income coming in just from what I did in the past. And so I'm not saying this to brag I'm just saying that it's possible for everybody if you just put your mind to it and make some changes.
Right. Well, I think that your career history and your background really proves that anything is possible if you do put your mind to it. You mentioned about how you're training people. Now you have a workshop that you provide called Passport to Success. Is that a current workshop you're giving to people? Yes, but I stopped when the COVID thing hit last March. Okay. Because I brought my mother to live with me because she's 80, she just turned 88. And the last thing I wanted to do was bring a germ to her, and she has health problems. So I stopped, and I've never liked doing trainings over Zoom, to be honest with you, because I like being in front of people. I like to touch people. I like to yell at people. I like to be in front of them. So I just stopped, and I'm going to pick it up again as soon as we're done with this COVID thing. And I'm training people in the United States and in Mexico. Okay. And this is multi-level companies that hire me. I don't do individuals, and I don't do small groups. I usually go to the company, and they'll hire me to do and they might have 30, they might have 100 people there, or maybe more. So okay. This is the presentations I do. As a retired person, I just wanted to do one a month.
I worked very hard in my life. So I want you to understand that. I mean, I was a police officer full time. I was in sales, full time. So I work hard. So now I have my grandkids, and that's the way of my life. So I want to have time for them, and I make a lot.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
My kids too. So that's what it's about. But I still want to be busy because I still have information that I need to pass on to other people because they really need to hear. So I always say, don't quit sales until you hear a professional sales training. And I'm not the only one. There's a whole bunch of them. And today, you're lucky because you can find a lot of stuff on YouTube that we didn't have before. I mean, we didn't have internet before. So I used to go to Zig Ziglar's was my most expensive one that I went to. Les Brown. Les Brown is more of a motivational, we need motivation, but what's the point of being all motivated if you don't know what to say, if you don't answer something? So it just creates more frustration.
Sure.
Mine is a combination of motivation plus instruction.
Mm-hmm.
This worked for me, and I'll give you like 5 different closes. So which one's going to work for you? And then get good at it. And so that's what it's all about, training. It's all about getting better at what you're doing.
Yeah, I agree. I love Les Brown. I never saw him live, but every year we actually watch a Les Brown video in our office. It is highly motivational, but I think you touched a nail on the head with being able to help people develop the skill set they need to overcome objections, to be able to actually understand true communication. Because motivation can get you so far. You can be a motivated criminal, right? You can be a motivated sales trainer. You can be a motivated anything, but really honing in on that professionalism and the skill set, I think is really what sets us apart. We talked several times in this program about mindset and overcoming challenges and just going after the things that you want to go after. I think that's the most important lesson we can take away today is whatever a person wants to do, they should just go after. There's going to be skill sets that are required. There's going to be challenges that are going to come your way, but it's all about mindset.
Exactly. And sometimes you know what you want to do, but you come across, a shelf that somebody made. I would like to do something. What do I have to do? Well, go learn carpentry. And for me, I discovered that in sales, there was a lot of money versus what I was working at $262 an hour. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, I need to get into sales. And then when I heard Zig Ziglar, I definitely want to go out of my comfort zone and risk myself up there. And because you do, when you go in front of people, you're going to hear the word no, and is that going to destroy you? And so you put yourself at risk of, getting hurt or getting your feelings hurt, which is the wrong way to look at it. And so I know that for somebody to want something else, like you just said, you find out what you want, what you're passionate about, and it'll come to you. If you don't have an idea right now, then what are your interests? Now, if you tell me your interest is mountain climbing, well, I don't know. Can you make money showing people how to climb mountains? I don't know. There's some things that are just not, feasible. They're hobbies. They're enjoyable, but that's not what you want to do for income. So for income, everybody's different. But I can assure you that in sales, in many different types of sales, there is a lot of money to be made. If I had been a police officer, and I would have just stuck with the sales, there's people that were at my level that are making over $1 million a year today because their organizations grew internationally. Now, I didn't do that, and I don't regret it, and I don't feel it, and I should have gone. No, I'm happy with what I did. I have satisfaction with what I did. I could have made a lot more. So sales is definitely, if you become a superstar, you don't have to have any other employment. That will carry you and retire you and have an income and have everything you want. But you have to become a professional.
That's good advice, Rudy. Well, let's leave it at that. You said that you were semi-retired. You're taking care of your mom. You're kind of waiting out the COVID storm and everything like that. Is there any links that you want to share where people can find some of your work or some of your training modules?
Well, I have the trainings, but they're in Spanish, and I have this on YouTube. And I am going to do more. So you know what? I'm going to record some in English Because up to now, my market, remember I talked about knowing which is your market?
Mm-hmm.
Which market is the Latino market? That's my market. So and I could do everybody else, but then I won't have the same success I have right here. I work less in my market and make more money than if I try and spread myself all over the place and be all over and make less money. So it's all about where I can do the most good, fastest, and less time consuming for myself or my family.
Sure, that makes perfect sense. Well, I'll leave it at that, Rudy. I really appreciate your time. I think that you definitely have the attitude that we're looking for in this program. I'm gonna ask this question, Rudy, and you can just tell me what you think the proper answer is. Rudy,
Okay.
are you Invictus?
I never lose hope. I never lose faith. Am I undefeatable? No, I've been defeated, at competitions already. So I'm not in, but my mindset has always been, if I want something, I don't give up and I go for it and I keep going. And that's why I'm still in Toastmasters. I'm going to get this title one of these days. And so to answer your question, the answer would be yes, I am.
By the way, that is the right answer.
Oh, cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Rudy. Hold on one second. I'm going to stop the recording and we can chat for a second, okay? But have a good day.
Thank you.